Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. So as I film this, it's the first week of October. That means fall season is here. And with that, that means summer is ushering itself out to a new season. And with that, that means summer tubbing season is also coming to a close. Now, what I'm going to do today is show you just what I got out of those tubs and how those tubs ended up from the summer. So like I said, summer tubbing season is over, unfortunately. I want to show you a little bit how those tubs went. I can say, though, that here in Wisconsin, we've had an unusually warm beginning of fall. Typically, I take my summer tubs down in the beginning of September. Well, now we're sitting here in the beginning of October. I got a whole extra month, well, at least with the big one, but I'll explain. So let me show you the tubs a little bit. Well, as you can probably see, my floating plants have gone crazy. That's my Salvinian gnatins. I had them outside last year and they really didn't take off. They would always die off on me, but this year they just went gangbusters. I couldn't stop growing them. I took them out of my tanks, out of those tubs so often, but they would keep growing back. Now, it's not a bad thing because it did kind of protect from sunlight with green water, even though I still got it, and help pull excess nutrients out of those tubs. But I thought they looked very beautiful outside and I really loved them. Also, my pond lily just absolutely took off. Now, I have 3 of them in this big tub, but this one really took off. That's the one with the yellow flowers, and I'll probably show you some clips of that. But and they really didn't take off until the very end of August, beginning of September. Usually they take off for me in flower like in July, but they really were late bloomers this year and just really went nuts. And you'll see how big one of them is in a little while. Now, what I want to talk about now a little bit are those other 2 tubs I had. Now, this one obviously was a pond on top of a pond, and that is not what's going on now. To start with that one, I had issues with it, and I pulled that pump hose out of that one and put it directly into the big tub just to cycle its own water, probably in the beginning of August sometime. Now, the pump worked great. That Higer water pump was fabulous. I had no issues with it at all. What was the problem for me was the little pre-filter I had in that top pond. When it would drain down to the bottom one, it would get clogged up at one point. I'd come home from work, the big tub on the bottom would be about half empty, and water would have been overflowing the top with a small one on top. And I got sick of dealing with it, to be honest with you. So what I did is I just threw an air stone in that top pond and just let that be a pond on its own, and had the one in the bottom circulate water with that water pump. Then it worked fabulous after that and pulled a lot of fish out of them. Now, the reason why that one is empty, and I can show you that the other little pond that I had on the other side of my deck is empty as well now, is because at the end of August, beginning of September, we had a freak little cold spell. And I didn't want to put heaters in both those little tubs. I just put one big heater in the big tub just to kind of keep that warm for those overnight temperatures when they dip. But I really didn't want to do that with those. And I know the guppies and that I had in those top tubs would probably not do very well with those cold temperatures. So I emptied them and put all the fish in the big tub. So everything that was in those small ones is now all in this big one. And I think that's pretty cool because you're going to see right now just how many guppies that I have in this tub. It is truly amazing. Now, I started probably, I don't know an exact number, I didn't count, but I would say there was probably about 20 guppies that I started with at the beginning of the season, and now I probably have hundreds. So what am I going to do? Now, the plan is I'm going to bring in as many of those guppies as I can, so I need to remove a lot of that Salvinia off the top of the surface of the water and the hornwort within it, pull out those pond lilies that are in the pot so I can try to successfully scoop those guppies out of that pond, because it's not going to be easy with all that in there. So I pull that all out, and then I'm going to drain the pond as much as I can and take as many of those guppies out as I can. Well, while that pond was draining, I found a couple cool things. First, that pond lily I was talking about. This thing is enormous. Now, it came off of one of the little pots. Now, I have 3 of them in there, like I said. They've never grown this big before. It actually rooted off of that pot and rooted itself into the substrate of that big pond. And this big mass of lily pads that was probably 75% that you've seen at the surface of this big pond was just from this lily itself. And that is freaking awesome. And I'm going to be using that in a future project. So make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe to my channel if you haven't, if you want to see what I'm going to do with it. Kind of cool what I think I'm going to do. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do with that. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And then in that second little tub that I had when I was emptying that big pond, I noticed there's a little bit of rainwater at the bottom. I noticed a bunch of movement. When I look closer, there's all kinds of little wiggly things wiggling around. Well, that must be mosquito larvae, because mosquitoes were terrible around here a few weeks ago. So that's perfect. That's free fish food. I'm going to suck all that up and throw that into the pond that's left over here, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So I got just about all the guppies out of that big pond as I can. There are some that are just hard to get, and I will try to get them at a later date. So I filled the pond back up, and the 2 goldfish I had in there are still in there. And I put an air bubbler in there, and I kept that heater in there for now. What I'm going to do with those goldfish yet, I'm not 100% sure. I have an idea of maybe moving this pond into my garage for the winter and keeping an air bubbler out there, because I know like the goldfish in the koi can kind of hibernate over the winter at the bottom. As long as the surface of the water doesn't freeze and the entire thing doesn't freeze, it'd be out of the elements in my garage, and I'd still have air movement so it wouldn't freeze over. I'm kind of curious to see if that would work and be able to keep them alive in order to use them again for next year, because honestly, I just don't have much room down here in my fish room anymore to put them. So that's one idea. Otherwise, I might rehome them. I'm not 100% sure yet, but as of now, they're going to stay outside in that pond with the heater, where they're going to be safe and sound until really cold weather comes, and then I'll make up my mind and decision of what I want to do. But now on to the haul of guppies, guppy endlers that I got from that pond. That is like amazing. I don't know how many there are actually in here. There have to be hundreds upon hundreds. Now you can't really see the color of them here, but over the summer, I have seen such colorful male and females alike in there. Now there's even a couple females left in that pond outside yet I got to scoop up, that I've seen these females have some of the most vibrant, like colorful tails I've ever seen on a guppy before. So I want to get them out of there. But what am I going to do with all these guys? Now that is the question. I'm not 100% sure. I want to fill up my one guppy endler tank that I have, that tall hexagon tank. I'm going to put select few in there that I want to kind of continue to breed with their colors that I really like, because I like trying to mix them together and creating this really cool color pattern with the fish I've been putting together. Some of these males and females that have been coming out from them are freaking fabulous in my opinion. So that's what I'm going to do with those. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to have so many left over. I'm either going to disperse them through a couple tanks, but I don't know about that either, because I don't want a bunch of guppy and endler fry babies all over when I have other breeding projects going. I know I'm going to sell some of them. I just don't know when, because the next swap meet I typically go to is until February. So I can keep them in this tote until then if I need to, and just use that as a makeshift aquarium. We'll see. But as for now, that is the haul of guppies that I got just from over summer. Like I said, there's multiple generations of guppies from that. Now, why and how do they breed so well outside? I had a video out about that this summer. That being outside in that warmer weather, in my opinion, that metabolism, that speeds up their growth process. And plus, there's such a plethora of live food that's within these ponds by being outside. Like, for instance, those mosquito larvae I showed you. Insects, everything that falls into there, that's all food sources for them to feed on. The green water that comes, all the little microorganisms that all these little baby fry can feed on as well. So being outside and breeding outside is so much better than trying to do it inside in your aquarium, because you just don't have that diversity of food sources coming into your aquariums. And I find that to be utterly amazing. And I really wish I lived in an area that I could run these tubs outside year round. Being in Wisconsin, I'm limited to usually about 3 months a year, from maybe the end of May if I'm lucky to typically the beginning of September. This year I got lucky to the beginning of October, but I really highly recommend, if it's something you're interested in, put a tub outside, put a tote outside, heck, put a bucket outside. There's numerous ways to be able to try to do this and be able to breed something, whether it be, you know, the guppies like I did. Now, Next year, I have different plans. Now, next year, I want to try a few different things. I think I'm going to steer away from the guppy and endlers for next year, and I want to try a few different species of fish. Now, that big tub, my hope and plan is to do white cloud minnows. Now, that's why I have been breeding white cloud minnows down here in my fish room. I'm trying to build up a supply of adult breeder size for next summer. I want to put up at least 20 years more of them in that big tub next year and see how that works. I've seen numerous people breed white clouds outside in the masses and get big results of lots and lots of them. Now, I'm not having that luck down in my fish room. I usually have them to take a breeding pair, put them in a container, let them breed, then pull them out. I'm not having any luck in the community aspect of breeding them within the aquariums, but I'm hearing on the tubs outside, it's a completely different story, so I want to try that. Now, those two other smaller tubs, I may replace them with other things and try something different, but I want to do rice fish in those. I have my King Yama red and orange Medaka rice fish that I got from LRB Aquatics. I want to try those out there. I have my Metano rice fish, and I have another set of rice fish eggs coming in very soon. I may have already got them by the time this airs. And if I can get them to hatch, I may want to try them outside as well. And I've got all summer to find maybe something else to use as well. So, you know, that is the fun part about this, is to be able to expand your fish room from inside to outside during those months. And it gives you more excuse to be outside. And I absolutely love it. And I really highly recommend it if that's something that you're into. Well, that was my year in summer tubbing, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I really highly recommend trying this if you can. If you live in an area of the world where it's possible to be able to keep fish outside for the summer, or even if you live somewhere year-round, and by the way, I'm jealous if you can, just the experience of being able to keep fish in their own element, even if it is in a bucket or a tub, it's different than being in an aquarium. Like I said, you have the natural sunlight shining on them. You get to see some natural colors of these fish. You get to see them grow faster. You get to see fry living in all different little organisms falling into these tubs for them to eat, and they grow fast. And I don't know, I find the whole experience very cool and very rewarding. And like I said, I highly recommend it if it's something you're into. And you get to expand your fish room. You can bring it outside and give you an excuse to get outside and take a step back into nature. So, like I said, if you can do it, give it a try. If not, you can watch through me or plenty of other people on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And always remember to think outside the box and take a step back in the nature. I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.